Footnotes from the Life Application Study Bible. The younger son's share of the estate would have been 1/3, and the older son would have received 2/3. In most cases, they would have received this at their father's death, although fathers would sometimes choose to divide their inheritance early and retire from managing their estates. What is unusual here is that the younger son initiated the division of the estate. This showed arrogant disregard for his father's authority as head of the family. According to Moses' law, pigs were unclean animals. This meant that pigs could not be eaten or used as sacrifices. To protect themselves from defilement, Jews would not even touch pigs. For a Jew to stoop to feeding pigs was a great humiliation, and for this young man to eat food that the pigs had touched was to be degraded beyond belief. The younger son, like many who are rebellious and immature, wanted to be free to live as he pleased, and he had to hit bottom before he came to his senses. Some people need great sorrow and tragedy to cause them to look to the only one who can help them, Jesus. Are you trying to live life your own way, selfishly pushing aside any responsibility or commitment that gets in your way? Stop and look before you hit bottom. You will save yourself and your family much grief. In the two preceding stories, the seeker actively looked for the coin and the sheep, which could not return by themselves. In this story, the father watched and waited. He was dealing with a human being with a will of his own, but he was ready to greet his son when he returned. In the same way, God's love is constant, patient, and welcoming. He will search for us, give us opportunities to respond, but he will not force us to come to him. Like the father in this story, God waits patiently for us to come to our senses and come to him. The sheep was lost because it foolishly wandered away. The coin was lost through no fault of its own, and the son left out of selfishness. God's great love reaches out and finds sinners no matter why or how they get lost. The older brother found it very difficult to accept his younger brother when he returned, and it can be just as difficult for us to accept people like the younger brother today. People who repent after leading notoriously sinful lives are often held in suspicion. Churches are sometimes unwilling to admit them to membership. Families often find it difficult to forgive and welcome them back. Instead, we should rejoice like the angels in heaven when a runaway from the faith repents and returns to God. Like the Father, accept and welcome repentant people wholeheartedly and give them the support and encouragement that they need to grow in their walk with Jesus. In the story of the lost son, the father's response is contrasted with the older brother's. The father forgave because he was filled with love. The older brother refused to forgive because he was bitter. His resentment rendered him just as lost to the father's love as his younger brother had been. Don't let anything keep you from forgiving others. If you are refusing to forgive people, you are missing a wonderful opportunity to experience joy and share it with others. Make your joy grow. Forgive somebody who has hurt you. In Jesus' story, the older brother represents the Pharisees, who were angry and resentful that sinners were being welcomed into God's kingdom. After all, the Pharisees must have thought, we have sacrificed and done so much for God. We can easily resent God's gracious forgiveness of others whom we consider to be far worse sinners than ourselves. But if our self-righteousness gets in the way of rejoicing when others come to Jesus, we are no different from the Pharisees.